I don't like seeing them pander to basically people that don't know what they're experiencing and don't know what they're talking about. And I think the answer to this is very, very simple. These people are tourists.
It's just literally saying exactly what the post says.
I hope some of you understand what I'm trying to say.
But I don't think you understand what you're trying to say. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a slightly different video. I usually don't do this, but Enders was malding on his stream about Reddit and people on Reddit and people who say movement is busted in Battlefield 6 and that the nerfs are warranted. So in this video, I'm just going to react to his response to what he says or has said in the past, and that stream's no longer available, so you can't find it, you can't see it. I wish I'd recorded it. But he was basically calling people I won't use the terms because they were a little over the top, and I think he kind of admits that in this video. So let's quickly go back and hear what he's saying here.
Disagree with. I do want to apologize for the way I acted on stream over this, but it's just very, very frustrating. I don't retract anything I said. I'm going to double down on this video, but could have handled it in a better way.
So that's what he says about his outburst or malding, whatever you want to call it. That he's going to double down. So, you know what? Let's skip past all this other stuff because I don't really care about his opinions. I just want to see how he doubles down on what he said in that stream, which is no longer available. None of the clips are available. He's taken them all down. So let's see what he says.
It's better when it comes to player count. Now we have to tackle the movement section. So I'm going to read this paragraph that's on your screen right now. However,
so I'm going to read this for you guys because I don't want to get copyright struck. This is fair use. Movement mechanics have been adjusted to create a more balanced and traditional battlefield experience. Momentum, especially horizontal speed, carried from a slide into a jump, has been reduced. There is now a greater penalty for consecutive jumps, which lowers jump height when jumps are spammed. Firing while jumping or sliding will result in increase in accuracy. These changes are designed to make sliding and jumping more situational, so they are no longer ideal options for engaging in gunfights, and will contribute to a gameplay pace that rewards skillful movement without becoming too fast or unpredictable. So on the face of this, I think this is reasonable personally. We don't want people to be engaging into a gunfight where they're sliding in out of nowhere and just having perfect accuracy because there's no penalty to it. When you are on your butt sliding across the floor at probably like 10 meters per second, which is what it feels like in Battlefield 6 at this point, you shouldn't be able to shoot someone and beam them with perfect accuracy. So I completely agree with this change. You should have a penalty while you're in that position engaging in a gunfight. It's kind of like back in the day when you used to be able to go prone and still have good accuracy. They changed that as well. You shouldn't be able to do that while going prone. It should be once you're in that position, or once you're out of that position, you should be able to then engage on equal footing with someone who's not in that position, who has a much better center of gravity, and the gun is like actually more useful to them than sliding along the ground.
Before I read it, I just have to kind of harp on them a little bit for how they worded this initial paragraph.
I personally don't see anything wrong with the wording of that paragraph.
So this paragraph was put out, and then for whatever reason, Drunksy...
I think there's a disconnect here. Like, just because Enders, and I'm going to say this in the kindest way I can, doesn't understand syntax and doesn't understand how things are stated, and he basically assumes that they mean one thing when they clearly are stating another, doesn't mean that the paragraph that was put out was incorrect in any way.
Who is a game developer working on Battlefield, tweeted a slew of clarifications that...
We'll get into that in a sec. I don't think there are a slew of clarifications. There's some clarifications, and they're not really clarifications. They're just like, calm down, guys. That's not what the paragraph says. It's clarifying people's misconceptions that are perpetuated by people like Enders.
Should have been included in the original post just to avoid confusion, because the clarifications that Drunksy provided are extremely important
for someone who doesn't understand how to read.
And they make the original post on movement sound a lot better than it initially came off as. The original post reads as follows. Movement mechanics have been adjusted to create a more balanced and traditional battlefield.
Okay, I'm going to skip past the part where he's reading this.
Predictable. Parachute physics have also been retuned with... And before I give my opinion on this, again, I have to give all of Drunksy's clarifications that should have been included in the original fucking post. Dice. But first, Drunksy replied to a person on Twitter with...
So adding diminishing returns to jumping is what we're actually doing, which is, okay, I'm going to pull up the post here for a side-by-side comparison.
Predictable.
Okay, there is now a greater penalty for consecutive jumps, which lowers jump height when jumps are spammed. Now let's see his clarification. Adding diminishing returns to jumping is what we're actually doing. An initial slide or an initial jump will not be affected. I mean, where in the post did it say that your actual initial thing was going to be affected? It says consecutive jumping. What part of that is so hard to understand? It's
also been
in the post. It's okay. Momentum, especially horizontal speed carried from a slide into a jump, has been reduced. It doesn't say that as soon as you slide, you are going to go slower. It says the momentum carried into the next event has been reduced, and it also doesn't say that the jump has been nerfed, the initial jump. It just says the momentum from the slide to the jump has been reduced. So the clarification isn't really a clarification. It's just literally saying exactly what the post says. It's just that some people don't know how to read.
We're actually doing an initial slide or an initial jump will not be affected. This is a balancing act. We believe that movement was in a pretty good spot, but some tuning in specific extremes was needed.
Completely agree with that, and that's what the post addressed.
He then replies to another person saying, bro, why the movement nerfs?
So he says, a bit difficult to bring contrast to a blog post, but they're absolutely not drastic changes. And it clearly states that in the post. It just says, and he clarifies it, we're still trying to retain depth to movement with some skill curve to it, just making sure that it doesn't become insane.
For more control.
What part of this doesn't essentially say the same thing? I don't understand where the clarifications are coming from, but like I said, I think it's from a lack of understanding how to read. So reading this post, I don't see any indication here that everything's been nerfed. I just see that they are addressing specific things that would result in some really wonky shite. Like you're sliding and you instantly jump and you're still going super fast and you have perfect accuracy during that entire period. That's what they're addressing here. They're not addressing anything like you can't jump as high as you know before you could jump before. You can't slide as fast as you could before. You can do all that. It's just that you can't spam it. You can't use it as a initiation. You can use it during a fight to get out of a fight, maybe to escape, to maybe get in a better position to win that fight. But you can't use it to start a fight to have this insane advantage where you're just coming out of the screen out of nowhere, sliding in, beaming somebody, and you're gone. Okay, so let's get back to this.
Another person saying, bro, why the movement nerfs? And he says, a bit difficult to bring contrast through a blog post, but they're absolutely not drastic changes. We're still trying to retain depth to movement with some skill curve to it, just making sure that it doesn't become insane. He then has yet another set of clarifications.
Okay, so he also says, it's difficult to give a feel for what we're doing through a blog post, but the movement changes are far from drastic. They're very localized adjustments to specific parts of movement where things could get too extreme. We want to retain depth, skill expression with movement. So you still have the ability to slide, you still have the ability to jump, you still have the ability to jump and slide, but it's getting more responsive in places that have felt a bit clunky before. So there's a lot more of this getting quality improvements, polishes in the same area. So basically what he's saying is he's adding to so this was not in the post, right? Like the second part was not in the post, but the first part was. It was talking about the extreme outliers where you could slide and jump, carry the momentum through, have perfect aim throughout all that. That's what's being nerfed. You can still do all this. It just won't be as effective. It won't make you be able to kill somebody while doing all this. It'll be harder to do it, but it's still doable. That's what the post was saying. And it also was saying that you can't just spam the jump after getting out of the slide. Every jump consecutively after that will not be as good, which is good. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That way you can spam the slide, jump out of it, carry on the momentum, and slide again, and keep sliding and jumping and sliding and jumping throughout the entirety of the map, which I'm sure some people could probably do with their sensitivity set at a certain point. So I completely understand why some people were getting all butthurt about it, who think that should be the case. I think that's what Ender's thinks should be the case, and now he's just backing off because there was a lot of backlash to that initial stream that he did and is no longer available. None of those clips are available because he was doubling down, tripling down on the fact that everyone else is the R word, everyone else is stupid, everyone else doesn't understand how to play, everyone else is bad. All these changes are bad.
Where he quote tweets my friend Kaiser, and he says, "It's difficult to give a feel of what we're doing through a blog post, but the movement changes are far from drastic. They're very localized adjustments to specific parts of movement where things could get too extreme. We want to retain depth and skill expression with movement. Movement is also..."
So I'm just going to skip part of this because I don't want to hear him talk. I don't really like his voice. Let's see.
Better idea to make a video showing the before and after of these specific movement changes,
no, I don't think so.
rather than trying to get the point across with words. Because if a developer is on Twitter
speed him
saying
up.
that it's
I
very
don't wanna hear his
difficult
voice too
to
long.
get this point across, perhaps you should do it in a different way so that people don't misinterpret it. On top of the fact that Drunksy in his last statement there says there's actually going to be some areas that get more responsive. So it wasn't just all nerfs, which is what the original post suggested. It was nerfs with some added benefits.
Okay. Once again, this post is talking about the feedback that they've gotten and what they're doing about it. They were not talking about other things that they were doing in this statement. This has nothing to do, him clarifying that and adding that is just him trying to calm your ass down and telling you, chill, bro. It's not all bad. Like, we are working on other ways to make improvements to movement, and you need to relax and calm your ass down. That's what he was trying to say in that tweet. Just so you understand, read between the lines. I know it's nuanced for you. It's hard for you to understand. This is Drunksy saying, calm your ass down. You're malding too much. This is him saying that. All right?
Clarifications where he quote tweets my friend Kaiser, a bit clunky before to get this point across. These clarifications. Now onto what I think about this. So if you were to ask me, Enders, did you feel any part of the Battlefield 6 beta's movement system was overpowered and in need of nerfs? I would answer no.
Disagree?
And I would answer no because I just truly believe that the movement was in quite a good place during the Battlefield 6 beta. I felt it was grounded enough. I felt there was
Grounded, yes. Grounded, because you were sliding 90% of the time. I'm assuming.
enough of a skill gap. I put somewhere in the order of 80 hours into the game, and I really got a good feel for what you can do with the movement. Everything you could do in it had to be very, very well planned and well timed and very deliberate. Nothing was too fast. In fact, the sprint speed is the slowest Battlefield sprint speed of all time. If you're not running with your knife out. I thought the jump penalties were definitely very punishing to the point where...
They weren't that punishing. They seemed like a normal jump penalty. I think the main issue here is you're not able to jump. The penalties are going to be more severe after coming out of a slide. It's basically what it comes down to, according to that post.
You'll watch this gameplay in the background. I'm not really jump peeking people while aiming down sights because, again, the penalty I felt was so punishing that it just kind of made it worthless in the first place. And generally speaking, just as a big blanket statement here, I don't personally feel any nerfs to any of the mechanics are warranted because the
I want people to find some clips of this guy doing what he said he didn't do during the beta, because if he played for 80 hours, I'm sure there's some clips out there, and I don't want to watch his content because honestly I just don't like listening to his voice. The only reason I'm making this video is so other people understand why his takes are stupid.
movement just simply wasn't that good. Now, I do want to address some other things here that are causing massive confusion. There were some weird things going on with the movement, having to do with bugs and like potential weird exploits. Those I'm going to show on screen right now, and I'm going to tell you guys what's going on. So in the bracket,
Okay, so he is going to show some of those.
I'm
Let's
going to
see.
put this clip that's circulating everywhere. This guy is using some weird stuff. This is absolutely not how the game played. In my 80 hours of playing the BF6 beta, I didn't see this a single time. You'll notice in some of the clips, he actually bounces off of ledges, and you might have experienced this in your own gameplay.
So the ledge bounce is an exploit. Everyone knows about it. The other aspect of this is what they were addressing in that post. If you notice, the guy is literally sliding, jumping, and he's moving at the same rate. That's what they're addressing. They're making sure that that can't be done, because that is something that kind of breaks the game.
Where you touch a ledge and suddenly you just go flying up in the air. So that is what he's using here. That will absolutely be patched. That is without a doubt a bug. I believe one of the developers on Twitter stated this will be patched as well. It might have been Drunksy. It's just not intended gameplay, and they should fix it. On top of that, you may notice he's jumping in a straight line in quite a big distance, and he's bunny hopping, as a lot of people call it. Number one, there's not bunny hopping in this game. If you really want to learn about bunny hopping, you should look up a video on it. He's basically just chaining a couple jumps together without losing any momentum. And someone DM'd me.
Again, he just says it right there. He's chaining jumps together without losing momentum. Let's see what the initial post said. Momentum, especially horizontal speed. carried from a slide into a jump has been reduced. I mean, you can't make this up. Like, I don't know what to say, guys. Okay, let's go back.
You basically just chaining a couple jumps together without losing any momentum. And someone DM'd me and told me that this is actually this person using some sort of macro or just sort of macroing the timing of the movement. This is also not going to make it into the base game. And I also never saw it, and I didn't personally use any of this jump.
And that's what they addressed. I don't understand the issue here.
Change stuff in my gameplay of the Battlefield 6 beta. So make no mistake, Battlefield 6's movement from a baseline perspective is nothing like what these clips are making it out to be. These are bugs, these are potential exploits, and it just isn't like this. On one hand, we have the official DICE post saying one thing, and then on the other hand, we have Drunksy saying another thing. I do have to admit, Drunksy's clarification regarding the jump peaking and jumping and sliding particularly does provide a much clearer view into how this may actually play after these nerfs are implemented. So the initial jump or an initial slide will not be affected. However, like I stated previously, it is...
Wait. Yeah, so now at least he understands that now. Okay, so he said it. The initial slide and the initial jump will not be affected. Well, that's kind of true, but it's not really true. The initial slide will not be affected, but the initial jump will be because it won't carry the momentum from the slide. So he's still missing some nuance there because, again, he doesn't know how to read. So yeah. Let's hear what else he has to say.
Very questionable, just from a baseline, if any movement nerfs whatsoever were needed past fixing any bugs that were present. Most of the time, you could only get away with doing one slide or one jump anyway. And touching on the slide's usefulness in the Battlefield 6 beta, I was using the slide mainly as a defensive option sliding into cover.
Same
like
here.
you did in Battlefield 1, but you could time it correctly in CQC to do a very brief slide peak, and of course you had to time this correctly, and it was really only useful within CQC, I would say 0 to about 5 meters. Additionally, if you were a little more of an advanced player, you could utilize this technique that you might see in the background gameplay a little bit in certain clips, where I would get a running start, jump, and then land sliding to just get a little bit more momentum so I can move around the map a little bit faster. If they want to take that out of the game, that's fine. However, there was also a separate thing you could do with the slide, where you could jump, land sliding while aiming down sights, and this could extend your effective kill range while sliding quite a bit. However, this was very difficult to pull off, and you could get caught.
Not really. It looks like it's pretty... Okay, so again, I'm not gonna say that he's not skilled, but what I'm saying here is, if you notice, as he aims down sights, there's literally no penalty like to his aim. So that's what they're addressing. If you want to do this, there will be a penalty. It's kind of like the jump peak, where when you jump, there will be a penalty to when you land and shoot. Here, when you're sliding and shooting, there will be a penalty to your aim as you're doing that. So that's what they're addressing in the post. So I don't think he understands that either.
Extremely easily. So this wasn't something that you could spam. This wasn't something that was necessarily easy to do. It was a very deliberate action that had to be timed, and you better make sure you're in a 1v1 or you're at least sliding your cover, because if you're trying to do this in front of even 2 people, you are simply going to die in 99.9% of scenarios. And again, similarly to the jumping thing that I just explained, I never saw anybody use this against me in my gameplay. And again, I put over 80 hours into the Battlefield 6 gameplay. I cannot confidently tell you that I saw it even a single time used against me. And again, in my gameplay, using the slide in any form for anything was very situational, and again, you could not spam it. So I'm not sure why people are saying you could spam slide. You definitely couldn't. In terms of the rest of the movement of Battlefield 6, you had proning, right? It's proning, we've all seen that. Crouching in Battlefield 6 was very similar to Battlefield 2042, but just directly worse. Reason being is using crouching in gunfights was best used again in very niche CQC scenarios where you have somebody close to you, and only in hipfire. If you tried to crouch spam while aiming down sights, your sight would get flung all over the place because again, there was already a penalty in place to combat this. So in my opinion, Battlefield 6's movement was already in a very good place. There were penalties in place to combat things that players don't want to see in Battlefield. Nothing was overpowered. You couldn't spam anything.
I mean, you could spam it. It's just not everyone did. There were maybe a few people that did, and even then, I think okay, so there's a couple of things here. One is there's something to be said about something being spammable versus something being overpowered. They're not the same thing. They're mutually exclusive. Just because something's spammable doesn't necessarily mean it's overpowered. But in some instances, if something's spammable and it's overpowered, then it's an issue. So sliding and jumping with the momentum carrying through, which is spammable, if you really wanted to do that in every fight or in any given engagement that suited it, it would be overpowered because you have 0 aim penalty and you're carrying all this momentum, so you're moving extremely fast while you're doing this. And that's why it was addressed. What I'm trying to get at is, if something is good in a certain circumstance, it will be spammed in that certain circumstance, and that's what will make it overpowered. So that's my point. So in certain engagements, sliding, jumping, and shooting would be very OP, and that's why it was addressed.
And whatever bugs are present, they should fix. So I'm not really so certain why people all of a sudden hate Battlefield 6 movement. After all I saw, personally, from streaming and making YouTube videos, is the majority of people enjoying the gameplay of Battlefield 6 during the beta. In the comment section, even on Reddit, people are going, hey, this feels pretty good. So I'm not really certain why there's this crazy 180 in celebration of them, in my opinion, unnecessarily nerfing movement. There are plenty of...
Again, The celebration is not nerfing movement. The celebration is making movement better. So there's a certain way to look at things in life. The way Enders is looking at this, it's like this is an attack on me because I said movement was good and they said movement was bad. Or they're changing something with movement, which implies that it's bad. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is they're saying movement is good. There are certain things about movement which are not good. We are going to address those not good things and make movement even better. That's what they're talking about. And just because you take it personally and you think that whatever you say is gospel and anything to the contrary is a slight to you, doesn't mean jack shit to anyone. So get over it, buddy. Like, this is not about you. This is not about what you said. This is not about what you think. This is about what they saw and what they heard and what they decided needed some changes. And they're not saying movement's bad. In fact, they're saying movement is good. We're just making it better.
Previous Battlefield titles that most likely have better movement than Battlefield 6. I would argue Battlefield 5 has a more useful slide, better jump peeking, and just has more in-depth mechanics and is snappier and is faster. Same can be said with Battlefield 4 and absolutely with Battlefield Hardline as well. And then of course the most recent installment with Battlefield 2042, that game's movement is light years ahead anything you can do in Battlefield 6.
I wouldn't call it light years ahead. I would just call it faster. And I personally don't like the movement in Battlefield 2042. Literally everything just feels like it's been sped up for no reason. You run so fast. Tanks move like they're made out of cardboard. It's kind of ridiculous.
6. So in my opinion, what they're doing here is they are just basically catering to loudmouth Redditors and bad players for the sake of doing it. And my biggest
So this is him doubling down, but these are not the words he used before.
The problem with doing that is you give the Redditors, you give the casual players that play once every month an inch, and they want to take a mile. We saw that in Battlefield 1, where they essentially nerfed the slide into oblivion and obscurity, to where it's not even really utilized in gameplay. And you can say, oh, maybe this is a slippery slope and all that, but no, in my opinion, it really is a massive concern, even if we do have clarifications from Drunksy stating they want a bit of skill expression left in the movement. The fact of the matter is, if you satisfy that ravenous base that want to basically nerf all the mechanics out of the game, they're never going to stop. I fully expect to see people want to see jumping removed from the game. I've already seen that in a couple threads. I fully expect to see people want the slide to be completely removed from the game. I'm sure
Nobody wants that. I don't know what he's talking about.
see that maybe even in this comment section, and I've already seen that on threads. So again, this is one of those things where you give them an inch, they want to take
I mean, you want everything to remain in the game. You want. I could go on here. It's kind of. I just don't understand this. Like, I personally make videos on YouTube. I don't really care what the game does or doesn't do in terms of what they think is good or not, because at the end of the day, if it's not good, people will stop playing, and if it's not good, they'll need to revert the change. So you speak with your time. And making videos on this, and I know I'm making a video on this right now, and this is stupid of me to say, but at the end of the day, you can tell them with your time what you think. If you don't like a change, make your voices heard in the forums, on Reddit, on their videos, on Twitter, on X, on Blue Sky, whatever it is. Make your voices heard. Get them to make a change. That being said, just because some people have a differing opinion doesn't mean that they are going to affect the game in a way which is going to make it worse. It might be that those people have some knowledge and they have some ideas that actually might be good for the game that you never thought would work. I played COD, I played Warzone, I enjoyed it. And I do like the fact that Battlefield 6 has slides in it. I don't like the fact that it has no penalty to aim currently, and that's the change that they're making, which I think is great. It should have a penalty. You shouldn't just be able to slide and have perfect aim at the same time. That should not be the case. So there's always a bit of nuance to all of this, and we need to understand the changes and the posts. You kind of have to read between the lines. You can't just assume everything is the worst possible it could be, or it's the best thing ever. There's always a little nuance, and that's what the clarifications were, which weren't really needed in my opinion, because if you just read the post properly, you would understand. They're addressing specific things in the movement. They're not addressing, or they're not making changes to the entirety of the movement.
I don't like seeing them pander to basically people that don't know what they're experiencing.
So here, this statement right here. Okay, I'm gonna play that again for you.
Take a fucking mile. I don't like seeing them pander to basically people that don't know what they're experiencing and don't know what they're talking about.
Again, who are you to tell people that you know what you're talking about? Who are you to tell them that what they're experiencing is not true or not valid? You're nobody. You're just a guy who's making a video who streams online. Like, you're nobody. I'm nobody. We're all nobodies who like to play a game. That's all we are. And your opinion is not greater than anyone else's.
A lot of people I've spoken to on Twitter and just the people I've replied to, I can hardly believe they played the same Battlefield 6 beta that I did with some of their opinions. They're replying to me telling me, oh, I saw this all the time. Oh my god, this was so prevalent. This was so overpowered. And I'm sitting here looking at my own gameplay, and I like to think I'm pretty fucking sweaty, and I would find these things out and use them in my gameplay, and I just simply wasn't. I didn't experience them. I didn't see anyone else using them. I didn't use them. So where are these mystical players that are using all of these overpowered movement mechanics that just I apparently avoided playing against during the entire beta for fucking 80 hours, 90 damn hours? And I think the answer to this is very, very simple. These people are tourists. And it's funny because they were calling me a Battlefield tourist, and that's how I know they are a Battlefield tourist. Because if you're a long time viewer of the channel, you would know that I'm anything but a Battlefield tourist, okay? I played Battlefield through the darkest times possible when everybody else left. So I really think a lot of people expressing their opinion on this are people that are probably just going to quit the game within the first 2 to 3 months and we'll never hear about them again. However, they want to have a big say in how the game should play forever. Isn't that funny? So just to round this off.
Again, it won't play like that forever. If these changes are not good, they will be reverted or they will be toned down or toned up depending on what the feedback is. There is a good thing happening right now in Battlefield 6. The devs are listening to the entire community. Yes, there will be people that say things that are not valid. Yes, there will be people whose voices will be heard and will be listened to that shouldn't be listened to because that particular thing might not be broken or that particular thing might not need a nerf or a buff. But that's still a good thing. The fact that they're listening, the fact that they're paying attention, that is great for Battlefield 6. That's what I want you to understand if you watch this, Enders. It's not about one change just ruining the game. That's never going to happen. They can revert it just as easily as they can implement it.
I heavily disagree with the direction they're taking the movement in. I understand the nerfs might not actually be that bad in practice. However, I disagree with the direction as a whole. I don't think the movement was good enough to warrant any sort of changes.
I disagree with that. I think the movement was good. I don't think it was perfect. I won't know what perfect is until I experience it. But I do know that there were instances where I felt it was janky. But then again, that's probably related to the maps themselves, not necessarily related to the movement. But there's a lot of room for improvement for the movement, in my opinion. And I might be a filthy casual, according to Enders. I might be one of those people that left during the dark times because I didn't like what I was playing. But I spoke with my time. If I was enjoying Battlefield during those times, I would have kept playing it. I played Battlefield 5 a shit ton. I played Battlefield 3 a shit ton. I played Battlefield 4 a shit ton. I didn't really play... Actually, I played 1 a lot too. But 2042, I didn't play much. At the end of the day, I think the key here and the message that I want you to walk away with is feedback is great. And regardless of what it is, it doesn't have to be listened to, obviously, by the devs, but the fact that they're listening to everybody, the fact that they're willing to make changes based off of what they see and what they hear is great.
In a negative/nerf direction, I was actually potentially waiting for some buffs, because again, as Drunksy stated previously in one of the clarifications, things were clunky and they plan on smoothing some things out. I expected to see exclusively positive changes to clunkiness, and I didn't really expect to see any...
I mean, everyone expects to see positive changes to clunkiness, and I just said that like a few seconds ago. Nobody wants clunkiness in their movement. Nobody wants that in the game. And everyone would welcome those buffs.
In terms of nerfs, because again, in my gameplay...
It's not nerfs. They are fixing something that was essentially broken. It was not an intention on their part to allow you to slide and jump out of said slide with the momentum that you were carrying from the slide, and at the same time have perfect aim.
The movement just isn't fucking that good, man. And I realize the game isn't out yet. Yes, the game can change still. Yes, they can revert these changes, and maybe the day will...
I mean, even after the game's out, they can do that. So I don't see the point
saved and everything's fine, and we're overreacting right now. Time will tell. If I had to bet on it, given my experience with the Battlefield franchise, once they make changes like this to core elements of the game, good luck reverting them.
I don't know about that. I mean, they want 100 million players. That's what EA has said. If they want 100 million players, they will have to revert some changes, because they're going to make some changes that are going to be horrible. Guaranteed. It's not going to be perfect. and they will have to reverse
with something like
those.
Battlefield Labs. And I should have put this at the beginning of the video, but I just want to make it crystal fucking clear. I'm not a COD player, not trying to turn Battlefield into something that it isn't. I simply don't want the mechanics of the game to be gutted simply because players want them to be gutted. There has to be a real conversation as to what real feedback really is, because I saw a lot of people posting that clip that I showed you earlier in the video of someone using movement bugs as movement feedback and as trying to justify why these nerfs were okay, but they didn't even...
So those people also didn't understand what the statement was saying. The statement wasn't talking about that particular movement. Yes, that movement showed the level to which it could be utilized, and that's why they wanted to address those things. But that was an extreme example, and the outliers help you figure out what you don't want. So I think it was a good thing that the clip was shared. I think it was a good thing that the clip was discussed, because it allowed the team to see what was possible, be it with macros or without, depending on the person's Twitch muscle fibers, to be able to make the change that wouldn't allow for that to occur.
No, a lot of the things they're watching were unintended things you could do in the BF6 beta. We have to have a real adult conversation around whether or not a lot of these changes are even necessary, okay?
They are.
And that's how I'll just end this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope some of you understand what I'm trying to say. Leave your thoughts.
I do understand what you're trying to say, but I don't think you understand what you're trying to say. You are trying to say that what you think is right and what everyone else thinks is wrong. And that's not the case.
In the comment section. If you enjoy the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button.
All right, so there's that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I usually don't make content like this because I don't like getting involved in drama or anything like that, but I think this needed to be addressed, because I think misinformation, even coming from a place where one thinks they're not providing misinformation, is a bad thing. And this, in my opinion, was misinformation. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.